Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. Kay Murray and Stevie Nicol here in the studio. We're also welcoming in Ian Darke and Don Hutchison with us tonight. Ian Darke looking very dapper. Ian, love the outfit. Very smart for tonight's show.
I thought I'd at least try on Christmas Eve. I mean, you're all looking great too.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Ian.
Hutch, not so much, yeah.
What's going on? What's going on here, Don?
Just a casual Christmas jump. That's my take on a Fiorentina old school shirt. So Lyle and Scott have, so the Lovers and Lyle and Scott have done a collaboration, and it's an old-fashioned take on a Fiorentina shirt for Christmas. So I've got a Dortmund one, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I pulled this one out for tonight.
Never good when you've got to explain it, is it? Never good, Dom, when you've got to explain it.
Listen, it's intended, all right? It's intended. So yes,
exactly.
Don's lovely jumper there. We actually want to start tonight's show by talking about something that's come up on our Christmas edition right now. Talking about Man City's drop-off, Ian. And the panel was saying, it was Dan and Nadem having a chat at how it's the biggest surprise in the Premier League since Leicester won it. It's right up there with that biggest surprise. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good show. If you're just talking about the Premier League era, if you want to go back before 1992, and the game was played before that, you can think of teams like Ipswich and Nottingham Forest, who came straight into the top flight from the second tier and won the league in their first season. So those were kind of sensations at the time. Cloughey's Nottingham Forest team and Alf Ramsey's Ipswich team. And Stevie Nicol will remember too that there was a time when Manchester United were relegated, and around that same time Tottenham Hotspur too. So there have been sensations before, but this implosion by Manchester City is right up there.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, to see? And obviously, so that's where they're saying when it comes to the Premier League era, as you're saying. But Don, of the whole panel that's on today, we obviously always ask for the pre-season predictions as to who's going to win the league. And you did have Man City as going 5 in a row. Yeah. So how surprised have you been to see this drop-off from them?
Massively. Massively, Kate. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone on the panel would have said Man City would be in the top 2. I'd be flabbergasted if anyone said 3rd or 4th. But none of us at this stage would have had Man City being outside the Champions League spots and the crisis that they're in. And it's not all down to Rodri. I think what's happened to this young team is they've been brilliant together when they were young. They were brilliant together and winning absolutely everything together. And all of a sudden, they've just got old together. It happened to Liverpool when Jordan Henderson and Fabinho's legs fell off a cliff overnight and no one saw that coming. So it's staggering, really. And when you delve a little bit deeper, I mean, I can remember saying, when I was over there in the summer, the sale of Julian Alvarez to me was a really bizarre one, unless they replaced him, because that would put too much strain on Erling Haaland. He's had to play every single Champions League game. He's had to play every single domestic and Premier League game. So that puts strain on him. They've obviously lost Cole Palmer at the same time, lost Riyad Mahrez. And the sales that they've done and bringing an awful lot of money into the club is good on the face of it. But when you look back now, and it's only now when we didn't call it at the time. We should have done. We should have probably spotted it a little bit quicker, but we didn't because of how good Pep is and his team. But we probably could have looked at it and probably thought, well, actually, when they were at the top, that's what the great Fergie team's done. That's what the great Liverpool teams that Stevie played in. Whenever Stevie's Liverpool won a title, I'm pretty sure he'll tell you the next summer they went out and bought when they were on top, and City have failed to do it.
Yeah, just lovely leather jacket there, Don. You've definitely been carrying the old-fashioned for a long time now. Did you see that picture of yourself there, Don?
No, I didn't see it. I missed it.
Oh, it was a big old leather jacket you were wearing.
He's a lucky one.
Oh, was it? Oh, I must have been young. I must have been young.
Can you see
must
it now?
Have been a teenager. Oh!
Wow.
I can see it. What?
Could you not get one that fitted?
What was I thinking? No, I think that was the fashion, Stevie. Just one size fits all.
I shouldn't talk.
Very, very, very 90s. You know what's funny though, Stevie? I remember at the beginning of the season, you kept saying, I just can't see someone doing it 5 times in a row, and you couldn't really put your finger on why. You've ended up being right.
I know, but at the same time, you could also use the same sort of sentence about when Leicester won the title. There used to be one of the producers. I used to go past his desk every time we left the studio, and he would say to me, "Unless they're going to win the title," and I'd be going, "No, they're not. They're going to lose next weekend, or the next weekend, or the next. They're going to drop off. They're going to drop off." And it's been the same with City. Are City going to win next week? Yeah, of course they are. They're going to win this week. Yeah, no, it's going to be next week. So that's kind of where we are with City winning a game, particularly in the Premier League. When is it going to be? And again, I'm going to say, yes, it will be at the weekend against Everton. But you never know.
Ian, you're laughing along to what Stevie's saying there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned the next game is against Everton. Well, Everton have just held Arsenal away from home, and they've just held Chelsea at Goodison. They've got their old resilience back, so that's no easy game either for City. They're getting absolutely overrun in midfield. Gundogan and Kovacic. You've got a lot of problems there that are adding up to with a lot of little problems that are adding up to a lot, I would say. Injuries, aging players, failure to refresh the team in the summer when they probably should have done, and only Savinho came in, didn't he, in the summer? So they probably needed to bring in a couple of other new faces around just to shake it up a little bit. And it's gone stale. And now you've got, I think, a collective loss of confidence and swagger as well. So you do wonder where the next win's coming from.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Don obviously mentioning Erling Haaland and Julian Alvarez going and the strain that's left on Erling Haaland. It's been no secret that there have been some struggles for Erling Haaland of late. We've spoke about it on this show. We've also heard Pep Guardiola speaking about his recent struggles. Here's what he had to say.
When it's about us, it's about not just one player. So when in the past we score goals and Evan was so prolific in helping us, it's because of the team. And when you have problems at back, in the middle, it's for everyone. It's a team.
Now, I know it's not the same situation, but obviously Erling Haaland is the superstar of this Man City team. So when a team like Real Madrid are struggling and they're not doing the best, it feels like everybody talks about Mbappe's lack of form. Why isn't Mbappe more of a leader? Why isn't Mbappe having the influence on the game he should? So what is the difference here with Erling Haaland?
Well, the difference is Mbappe was getting opportunities and Haaland's not. And so if you're not getting opportunities, it's completely unfair to point the finger at Haaland, because what's he supposed to do? He's there to score goals. In order for him to score goals, then the other 10 are there to provide. And if they don't provide, yes, you can talk about, well, you can do things on your own. But let's be honest, he's standing in a penalty box with normally 8 or 9 other defenders from the opposition standing around him. So I'm not quite sure what anybody expects Haaland to do. If there was one player on that team that you could take out and say, quite frankly, this is not down to you, it would be Erling Haaland. It's completely unfair. He doesn't get the ball served in the box early. In fact, he doesn't get the ball served in the box at all pretty much right now, because they just won't put it in. For some reason, they still want to keep a hold of it. They still want to have 1,000 passes. And then he gets boxed in, basically. So, yeah, I don't understand anybody who can seriously turn round and point the finger at Erling Haaland for the problems that City are having right now.
Do you see it the same way, Don, that he's completely blameless in this situation?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you simplify the game of football, and when you simplify, Kate, and you look at Man City and you ask yourself, who's in form for Man City? And we've just seen a graphic there, the team. Not one single player is in form. So Phil Foden, who was young player of the year last year, is not in form. Kevin De Bruyne has been in out of the side, injured. Jack Grealish hasn't done it this season. Pressure on him, by the way, if he's going to be there next season. Doku's had injuries, been in and out of the side, and we talk about Rodri and Kovacic. But when you look at the whole team, they're all out of form. And when you look at Man City as well and look at their numbers, they concede now on average 1.5 goals a game. That's their average number conceding. So it puts an awful lot of strain on a man. Even when he hit 52 goals a season, we all sat here every single week and said, by the way, he's only had 6 touches in the first half. He's only had 7 touches in the second half. But he was still getting service. So now the service has dried up. And Stevie nailed it there when he said they still want to have 1,000 passes. And what that is, that's a team that's got doubt. That's a team that's got lack of confidence. So if you're in a really good area, and normally without even thinking, you'd whip a ball in towards Erling Haaland, now you've got no confidence. You're like, oh, I'll take a touch. And what I'll do is I'll go safe and I'll go sideways. By that time, that pass is not on anymore. And you go right through the side and you can times it by 10 and everyone's taking that extra touch. And only sort of players really know what that feels like when Stevie can see a ball at Anfield in his pomp and a ball comes out the sky and he can volley it first time to the right winger or the left winger. But when he's not confident, he goes, "Man, I'm not taking that pass on. I'm not taking that Hollywood pass on first time. What I'll do is I'll take a touch, I'll go into Ian, Ian will go save to Kay, we'll go back to Don, and by that time, the centre-forward's made 10 runs and he's not getting any service." So it's doubt, it's lack of confidence, and somehow they've got to try and find a spark, which is incredibly difficult.
What's been your overall impression of it, Ian?
I don't think Haaland's the problem. I think he's the least of their problems. I think the problems are in defence, really, and probably the lack of cover for that defence as well. I think I'm right in saying that in this horrible 12-game run where they've only had one win, they've let in 2 goals or more in 11 of those 12 games. And that is incredible, really, for a side of their quality. And I think we were all saying 2.5 months ago, or most people were saying, oh, they'll come good. They'll make a big storming run after Christmas like they normally do and clinch a 5th title in a row. Well, that isn't going to happen, is it? And I think, you've got to ask a little bit of Pep Guardiola as well. Have they got to start just changing the style a little bit to ring the changes and try to turn this around?
Let me put that last question from Ian there to you then, Stevie. What can Pep do to try and change things up for them? Stylistically speaking, if it's to help them, or does he need to do that?
Well, he needs to do. He can't keep doing this. I think I said it 5 weeks ago. What's the definition of insanity? Just keep doing the same thing and messing it up. Because that's what he's doing. We're sitting talking about Ange Postecoglou has to change. He's got to do something different as well. They can't keep doing this nonsense. I mean, seriously. Any team today that plays against Manchester City, particularly defensively, are absolutely delighted the way they go about it. Because the centre-backs don't need to really be that bothered about Erling Haaland, the so-called superstar, the goal scorer, because he's not getting it early. So you're just shuffling back. And if you're the full-back, you know that if you get anywhere close to any of the wide guys, you know they're going to roll it backwards. It's so great for defences. It's absolutely scary. And so 100% Pep has to change it up. Just change. Sometimes you just need to get rid of the cobwebs, get a breath of fresh air. Go 4-4-2 and say, right, the 2 wingers, play like old-fashioned wingers. And again, I'm kind of going to go back to Ange. Ange Postecoglou was trying to say that he's not changing it because the players won't be any better if we change it. Well, guess what? You're getting beaten every single week. So what is not going to change? If it doesn't work for a couple of games, then you know what? You can turn around and say, well, we tried that and that doesn't work either. And then people like me will get off your back. But when you keep losing game after game after game, doing the same thing, come on, it doesn't make any sense at all. If you're such a great coach, then you come up with something. For how many years? 15 years. Everybody's been kissing his backside, saying how great he is, which he has been. But you know what? Now you've got to really show us what you're made of. Can you do it when you're up against it? Because in the last 15 years, he's never been up against it. He's always had the best. Let's see what you've got.
OK, let's see what you've got, because you say each week you think it must be this week.
Oh.
What's your prediction for the game against Everton?
City's going to beat Everton.
Comfortably?
Honestly. See, the problem is Everton's recent run, although they lost 4-0, they've had about 4 0-0s and 1 4-0 win in the last 6, something like that. But the problem is their best players have been Pickford, Branthwaite and Tarkowski. In this run, their best players have been those 3 guys. You can't keep getting points if the 3 players who are furthest from the opposition goal are your best players every week. You can't keep doing that, even against a team like Man City. So I'm going to go with Man City to win.
Ian, your prediction?
0-0. Another Everton shutout.
Oh.
0-0, yeah. I mean, not scored in, 6 of the last 7,
I think
Everton?
it's possible.
Yeah, John?
Yeah, I mean, if it was at Goodison, I'd sit here confidently saying I think Everton will beat them. But because it's at the Etihad, and I'm like Stevie, at some point they've got to win a game. Sean Dyche will go there, and he will go for exactly the scoreline that Ian just predicted. He'll go for the 0-0. I've seen a smirk on his face when he got the 0-0 against Chelsea a couple of days ago, because that's what he prided himself in. He got the 0-0 against Arsenal, so he's taking points off the big boys, and he's loving life doing it. I just think, and I go back, and Stevie said there about Pep doing something different. I go back to a Champions League game, I'm pretty sure, when Pep done something very different for what he normally does. And he played his two wingers. Savinho was one of them, and Jeremy Doku was on the other winger. And he played him on the correct side. So Savinho lefty, he played him on the left, and Doku being a righty, he played him on the right. You'd very rarely see Pep do that because he likes to have them inverted. And they were really good on the night. They were old-fashioned. They got to the byline. They got Haaland some service. So scoreline, I think it's going to be a tight, but I think City will win at 1-0.